Hello, world.
Hello.
Hello, world
Hello.
again.
Hello.
We are back with yet another stream, which is supposedly going on all channels. So I'm going to just make sure that everyone can see us.
Sit here and smile for a minute until we're sure that everyone is live and we're viewable. It looks like we're getting there.
And everything looks good, and we can talk about the world now.
Great.
All right.
Cool.
Well,
Happy Thursday, everyone.
Hello, world again.
I'm Laura, and this is NATO, and we are from Notia Point.
Yet another.
And we've been talking a lot
stream,
this week,
which is
about
supposedly going on all channels.
Our
so
tool, the Olympiad. Our DevSecOps tool, our cloud viewable development tool, the Olympiad.
It's Toolbox.
It's Toolbox. Awesome.
And
so, of course, we've been talking a lot about like what it's for and why someone might want to use it. But we thought we'd also talk today about who is our ideal user. And who really will get a lot of benefit from using the Olympiad. Our tool. So, NATO, take us away. Talk a little bit about our DevSecOps tool, our cloud.
So the Olympiad, it's definitely not for everyone, and because one thing I just want to talk about is who's the Olympiad for? Really, it's really only going to be something that's going to interest people who are cloud developers, or really someone who works either in an executive branch or a managerial branch that makes decisions around like what's going to help speed up development and delivery to your customers and things like that. And so, if you're not a person who deals with development and developing operations and then delivery to customers, the Olympiad's probably not for you. Who's the Olympiad? And while it makes a great home lab, which is a use case that we use it for, is home lab for consumers is almost the only, I guess, practical use. If you're a consumer, either maybe you're trying to build a business, or but really, who's the Olympiad for? It's really built for business, and really, in a lot of ways, we built it as it was the toolbox that I used to build our platform, development and developing operations, everything on and test on, and then to fund it, I ended up using it as a developer. And while it makes a great home lab, which is a use case that we use beginners develop, home lab for consumers is almost beginners. Once again, it's a learning tool. So but where you're trying to really, I am an ideal user, but really, who's not the people who ended up being. Really, in a lot of ways, we built it as. Let me stop it. Oh yeah, the audio's doing weird things.
Okay, so let's maybe back up a little since that was probably weird for a minute. So let's go back and talk a little bit again. So who is our ideal client? That's what we're talking about today on this stream is who is the perfect user for the Olympiad.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this again in another future stream, but at least starting to talk about it for a first time. So now hopefully the echo's gone.
Yeah, apologies for the technical difficulties.
Yeah, all the weird audio things. But really it's for really business developers is who it's for, and developers. If someone's not a business developer or trying to develop business or trying to learn how to become a business developer of some sort, the Olympiad's just really not for those kinds of people. Oh no. all the crazy double audio.
Thanks, Rachel, for the comments to let us know that was going on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, the box. These boxes were designed by our CTO that we manufacture here in-house.
Yeah, and we build our toolboxes specifically to work with Docker and Kubernetes, which is, once again, that's their business tools. If someone, at home, someone's not going to just go home and be okay, time to start playing with Docker and
Unless
Kubernetes.
Unless you're NATO here. This is
Unless
what he does in his fun time.
Or, there's some nerds out there.
If you're a hardcore developer, it might be something you take home and have fun with as well.
Yeah, so if you're nerdy enough, then it might be for you, sort of a thing. I don't care who you are. If you're a big enough nerd that you want to go home and build cloud at home, then great. Otherwise, it's who is going to actually use it on a day-to-day basis? We use it for our business. We use it as a toolbox to make it easier to build and rapidly deploy cloud solutions, cloud products, and like, what do I use it for? I deliver products. I rapidly build and rapidly deliver, and then if I'm gonna deliver, I'll deliver education classes, or I'll deliver. Maybe I can host something if I want to, so I can host workshops if I wanted to, or host. Well, it's a cloud platform, is what it is. So you can host whatever you're trying to do. I don't know what you're trying to do with it, but it's a toolbox for developers and people trying to, whoever's looking for that sort of thing. So that the other benefit of is it adds security too. So it's a security layer, and it's really edge computing based. So if anyone's heard of edge computing, and if you're in the cloud operating space and all that good stuff, you may have been thinking about getting into edge computing or some of those other things, but we use edge computing to make it easier for collaboration for development projects, because like really, even before COVID hit, like we're remote anyways, and we're just like all over the place. It's like 6 hours for us to drive to our nearest member or something along those lines. Like we're not close to each other, and I have to have an easy way to develop with my developers and my team of developers to then develop things that we deliver. And lately, we funded it by building to deliver solutions to students to learn on, because it's better to experiment with students, where it's like if it's still in an experimental situation where it was most of the year, you don't eject experimental stuff into a business. Instead, I tested it myself and then worked with students who got to test it and got extensive feedback, and then also people learning on the platform. It's also able to then host learning so that other people can learn development. And we taught cybersecurity is what I developed with our general platform and what I used our platform for. But really the Olympiad is for the developer. That's who it's for. It's for, if you're an educator, you're a developer. If you are a business owner and you also so happen to be the one who builds and deploys products, or if you're on a big team where you have someone who develops, someone who's an admin, and someone who manages maintaining operations, really applying edge computing and keeping it simple and adding a thin deep web layer, which is what this adds to anyone who's constructing cloud, building cloud. If you're working with Kubernetes, especially if you're working with Kubernetes or Docker, I guess too, but if you're working with Kubernetes, it's nice to just have edge computing infrastructure that can also be used for hosting, for that matter, where you can also host internal tools for your developers to share or use. Or for that matter, maybe you don't have another production Kubernetes cloud and you just want to build a product, and then you want to be able to deliver the product straight from what you build it on. Well, you can do that too. So really it's just building and hosting. So do you want to build on it? Do you want to host on it? You want to do both. You want to build and host on it. And it's a security layer too. So DevSecOps. This is the sec in your DevOps at the end of the day is what this little box is. So it's most people don't really have a use for it. Unless you're an operations pen tester, and you're developing things, or maybe you're just a developer in general.
Anything, it's just
you're working with containerization tools.
It's the right tool for the right person, and so that's kind of what we're trying to get at today is who those right people are. So.
Yeah. If you're not using infrastructure as code or working with infrastructure as code, or you don't even know what that is and don't want to know what that is, the Olympiad is not for you. The Olympiad is for people who particularly like to develop infrastructure as code, and then also it has the capacity to manage hosting too, because it creates an edge-based cloud. And it's a cloud, and it's edge-based. And then it's up to you as the developer to decide, what do you want to use it for? Do you want to host with it? Or do you want to use it to maintain existing production? Or do you want to have separate production and then build on the box? But it's a toolbox. And it all starts with, you got to start somewhere. And so it's just a painfully affordable way to start somewhere. So if you're going to start something, or you're going to develop something, or you're going to create new updates, new projects, new features, I don't know what you're trying to create. A developer knows. That's why it's for developers. Developers develop. That's what developers do. So, so whether maybe you are an educator trying to teach classes and you're I have all these students and I need to teach these students. you could, as the educator, have one of these and then host all your students on one of these remotely without them ever having anything, just because it's a cloud in a box. You might have to make sure that your internet connections are appropriate, those things.
Yeah.
And then it's infrastructure as code, so you can save it. So like if something happens to this box, the infrastructure as code is saved online anyways. So, it's a really affordable way, like, oh, the infrastructure needs to be replaced. Well, this infrastructure didn't cost you $2,000
right.
or even $1,000. So really, you can be back up and hosting like instantly if something happens to the box, or if you have a bunch of them distributed. Let's say you have 20 developers using these, and one developer's like little box goes under because it connects people remotely over a VPN in clusters. Well, it's redundant. So the developer cloud stays up, and then the developer who has the system that went down, if there's hosting on there, the hosting doesn't go down. That's the benefit of cloud, and it's distributed. So it's a distributed developer cloud, and then developers can then access all their tools, share all their tools, interact with each other on their tools, all those good things. And it just makes development easy. I mean, that's just it.
Yeah.
For a developer, that's it. That's what it is. For someone who's not a developer, there's a much more of a learning curve to figure out, like, well, what would I do with this? Well, what's Kubernetes? If I have to teach you what Kubernetes is, it's probably not for you. If I have to teach you what Docker is, it's probably not for you unless you're trying to learn it. Now, and that's really how we funded it, was by teaching people with our own platform.
Yeah, what these things are and how to use them. And
we built on it.
Developer skills.
We can do our own hosting on it as necessary. We demo on it, and then it's so lightweight that someone can basically pay for the education, and we can actually just send them one of their own because it's low cost enough too. Where then the expensive part is the education anyways, and it's like me preparing that stuff. Like, labor is expensive. And so if labor is so expensive, instead of making my students pay more for other things and other stuff, my students pretty much just like pay pay me as the developer just for my labor. And so like as a developer, it's like I have something where it's lightweight enough so like you can develop and the cost is like all labor. And so if you are, I don't know who you're developing for, because that goes back to like who's your audience. Yeah. And like as a developer, you have to know who your audience is. Who is your audience? Maybe your audience isn't students. Maybe your audience is teaching a team of developers, or maybe your audience is that you host like banking software from it. And maybe you have a production cloud that's in a co-location, and you need something that makes it more secure to access your Kubernetes infrastructure, where you have what's called a zero trust design, where your production is up in what's called anyone who knows what zero trust is already knows what I'm talking about. That's the kind of, what I'm talking about. It's like if you have a zero trust infrastructure and it's like Kubernetes, and you want to have another like zero trust like jack into the pipeline where you can add other layers of security, and then also give your developers pure metal, like bare metal of their own, that they can, let's say they lose their internet, they can keep developing on their node. Let's say that there's an internet outage, or you don't have to worry about AWS outages or Azure outages. You have your box. So that's it.
Yeah, so essentially, I guess if you're speaking Nathan's language, or if he's speaking your language, then this might be something that you would find useful. If not, if all of these terms are a little over your head, then maybe education is a good place to start.
Yeah, start by learning. If you don't know what our product is with just me saying those things, it's probably not for you, and education is the first step. And then if you're trying to learn, then it can be for you, or once you get to a certain point, then it might make sense after that. So, but really it's for professionals is what we built it for. It's for developers, people who are trying to simplify their development and also lower the cost of their development to where your development, put more money into your people. That's kind of why we built it, is so that we can pretty much put all of our money into our people instead of our infrastructure and things like that, and it makes it easy for us to just do whatever we're trying to do in a modern internet age where hosting, doesn't matter what the hosting's on, the user just sees what's on their internet screen. That when someone goes to a website or a web hosted thing, they don't know what's underneath the surface. They're a user,
Mm-hmm.
They don't. The user doesn't care if it's on this or something else. That's the developers,
they don't know the difference.
And so I just like to make life easier. So that's it. So, anyways, thank you for watching. And
yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys.
That's the Olympiad.
The Olympiad.
The Olympiad.